We're rolling.
We're rolling.
Oh, rolling. Happy birthday to my fellow Pisceans and welcome to the March vlog. I wanted to introduce you to two new paintings for this month from the Sunshine and Grit collection. We have Honey Baby. This month our word is imagine, and like all good Pisceans, we are focusing on sensitivity and imagination. And the palette behind this painting, when Yvonne and I co-created it, we made it in 2011 on my actual birthday, and so we did it in a 4-hour single sitting. The only thing we used as inspiration was I had taken a photograph of one of my students who was holding a viola, and I printed it on the wrong side of the glossy photo paper. I printed it on the back side. And so I just kind of left it to dry, and it took like 3 months to dry, but it created this really beautiful sort of yellow golden honey feeling. And I kind of love the color and the depth behind the color with like the greens and the subtle reds. When Yvonne and I were painting, I brought her this reference, and together we were like, yeah, this is the perfect jumping point for Honey Baby. So that is where sort of it started, and also where the title came from. At first glance, it kind of has almost an eerie vibe. Yvonne and I always kind of make fun of the central figure, the lady, because to us she kind of looks like the lady in the Haunted Mansion ride at the end, you know, like standing there like, hurry back. So we're always giving voices and playful stories to our paintings. Not being able to see the smaller figure, the childlike figure, we can't see its face, so we don't really know the emotion, how to read it. So we have to look to the color to find the emotion, as well as the application of the paint to find the emotion, and how it compares to the application of the other figures. If you look at the color of pink, you're going to think of naturally the heart and the open-mindedness. It's fresh application. The pink and the white is boldly applied. It's very opaque. It's alive. It's an active way of painting that little figure. And so it's kind of a quirky little figure, and you can see the movement in it. The symbol of the child could be seen as like a distraction. On one hand, we were kind of joking that maybe the child's in her way and she's walking and she's like, get out of my way, child. Like she's putting her hand out like, excuse me, pardon, or whatever. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe it's a begging child. Maybe, you know, that was one of our other stories, was that the little child's like, please, Her Majesty. And she's like, leave me alone. Like maybe that's the dynamic that's happening. Maybe the child is holding up a red cloth to lay down right at her every step. And that's my favorite of the possible interpretations that we were playing around with, and stories that we were messing around with. Because in order to think that, there's a trust that's involved in art. Children represent truth and this naive, playful vibe. And so this little child represents play and joy and wonder, and really it represents a very bright imagination. As far as the ghostly lady, she's much more transparent and she's translucent. In this particular painting, it's not about her face. It's actually about the glow that's coming from her heart. Looking down at her jewel, that green light, it's represented like a heart chakra. It's your open green energy. Her energy is not so much as pushing the child away as much as she's just kind of saying like, be calm, child. The future is calm. That's how I like to see these two figures kind of playing back and forth. And when you're in the creative mode, it is really that trust. You know, when you do have that overactive imagination, it's awesome. But you also need to be able to calm it when needed. And I feel like that's what she's saying. She's saying all in due time, be calm. She knows that in order to reveal herself, she has to keep her heart open. She has to trust. I really love this little painting. I have to say, it's in my private collection. I decided not to sell her because we painted her on my birthday. I really love what she represents. So this painting is really for people who love to lead from their heart. This is for people who don't allow other people to break their spirits. I just like to imagine what all of our lives could look like if we just only lead from the heart. keep your imagination bright and keep your heart open. So the second painting that I would like to introduce you to, her title is My Mona Lisa. It's from our Meet the Artist collection. She's so small that I'm holding her here. I haven't seen this painting in a lot of years. I painted her about 17 years ago, and I haven't seen her in about 15 years. One of my dear friends collected her back in the day, and she was kind enough to let her come over to the art farm, and I got to see her again. Seeing old paintings, it feels very much like seeing an old friend. It's like a friend that you saw them go through some tough times. That's what it feels like. It's a friend that I know really well. I saw her in a really anxious time of her life. It was a rough time for my life, quite honestly. I was in graduate school getting my master's in art. My little family was breaking up. I had my little toddler at my side, and I was writing my thesis, finishing my thesis, really turning it in. It was nervous energy. If I could explain it in any way, it would be nervous energy. So yeah, when I look at this painting, I remember her well. I remember her fears and her anxieties and her insecurities and her broken heart. Honestly, that's what I remember. So on the other side of imagination is escape. And I've always said that I'm a master escape artist. At the time, I was so stressed out. I wasn't eating. My bones were sticking out of my neck. I literally had bird bones. I was painting mostly 19-foot paintings because I had a lot of energy to get out, a lot of nervous energy to get out. When this little gal came along, she was really small compared to everything else I was working on. I started thinking about what would my Mona Lisa look like if I were to tap all that big energy into a really small piece. And maybe if you stared at her long enough, you could find a real person in there. And maybe if you looked really closely, you could find a little smile in there. She ended up being the front and center piece for my master's graduate show. The title was Shocking Physical Side Poke. That pretty much summed up how I felt in my life. So at the time I was finishing my thesis, we were required to write the full thesis and then break it down into a smaller version and then a one-page version. I wrote it at the same time that I painted this painting, so it would give you a lot more insight of where my head was at than anything I could say to you right now. So if I may, I will read that to you now. Everything suddenly feels relative to character and is only one thought away from being something else. Intuition is just as playful as it is wise. While I don't mind spending energy on subtle amusement, I'm also learning about how to get by. I have no interest in pretending that life is not intense or that I am not after something more splendid than the something before. Intensity is the secret behind the object and its energy. In dogs, intensity is called gameness. In nature, it becomes distinction, and I prize distinction. The romantic in me believes in the dual nature of all things, and so does the antagonist. It describes why I push as hard as I pull, and why there are always two sides to every fence, coin, and story. Paintings are shelves for my collections. Picking to look and looking to pick, so now I'm obsessive compulsive. I'm pulled toward anything passionate and straightforward, but in truth, I'm just sensitive. Sometimes I think a hidden language is left behind for the sensitive ones. Mostly I just want to be allowed time with my mind and my own sense and work at pushing out my giant little human purpose, and maybe leave a few collections behind to keep in good fashion for the future sensitive ones. I look primarily at human desire because my work is about force. Like a toilet, a circle, a finger, a girl, all things operate within a delicate system that turns awkward when forced. And force is really extreme opposition. I think I'm not at war with my pathological side, but sometimes I wonder. All things are relative in comfort and in passion, and I never mind bending for beauty, no wonder. It's not that I really believe in magic, it's just that I still believe in the value of an honest try. So I could make paintings about how well I was taught to believe. And that was on 10/10 of 2002 when Mona Lisa was painted. Thank you. My favorite thing about my Mona Lisa is that she still shows up. She keeps marching on. She represents mind over matter. And that to me is such a gift. And I appreciate you guys for being here and for wearing our art. I'll see you next season. Ciao for now.